What's happening, party people? Happy successful Saturday. We're going to jump into it's all going to be like a through line of connection. For those of you that are in the business of building a successful business, there are specific tenets and principles that you must abide by in order to get the results that you are committed to. Now, if you know anything about winning, if you've ever won something very important, if you've ever sought a goal, a specific outcome that you were fired up and committed to, but maybe you didn't necessarily know how you were going to get there, then you understand the most important starting point, the most important, all-encompassing come from is the mindset. You got to have a mindset of a champion. You got to have a mindset of winning. You got to have a mindset of getting it done no matter what. And if you have that mindset, that's going to create a signal. And that signal starts to go out. And as it goes out, it has to find a place to land. If any of you right now were to open up, let's say you had a television screen and one of those boxes, and you were to flip the switch, it would tune into a frequency. And that frequency would bring you access to a certain number of channels, programming, and information. Now, that frequency that you're accessing is a low vibrational frequency. It is solely based on entertainment, distraction, and filling your head with a lot of useless googly goop, as my mama would say. Now, doesn't mean that there are not some good stories in there, some entertainment, but that's the frequency. Now, your frequency is going to be a lot higher. The success frequency that you're emanating, that you're putting out into the world, is going to be based on your mindset. And your mindset's going to be based on what you're cultivating in terms of the inner conversation, your thought patterns, and what you do on a daily basis when it comes to your actions. All of that has to be aligned. Now, if you're building a successful business, you understand one of the key tenets of that is going to be recruiting. You have to find and identify other make it happen captains like yourself. Now, a couple of things that we spoke on last week was talking about your inner conversation, and I even went into a little bit of incantation. I will hear the voice of the Holy Spirit within. I will lead and not follow. I will create and not destroy. So having an incantation that resonates with you is a great starting point because words have power. Conversation has power. It's not how you respond when things are going well. That's easy and very predictable. What is important is how you respond when things are not going well. And that allows you to really dictate the terms of engagement and how the game is going to be played. Because everybody has challenges and disappointments. It's how we respond to them that separates those who are going to win and those who are not going to win. It's very, very simple. So when you're looking at recruiting, the first thing that you have to identify is who you are, because you're going to attract mostly that of the characteristics that you emanate. When you make a phone call and you're wanting to share your business, you're excited about your product. You're excited about the opportunity. So, for example, when I got the phone call, there was a lot of excitement on the other end of the phone. Now, the person that called me was someone that I have a lot of regard for, someone that I've worked with and done business with for over 20 years, has been a very important mentor in my life when it comes to what I do in the speaking arena. And so we had a very strong connection, and we're both very high-minded when it comes to being positive and being thought leaders and constantly learning and reading and growing. So we were both committed to vibrating at a very high level. So frankly, he didn't really have to say a whole lot to get my undivided attention. And then he brought in another high vibrational person, another individual with an extraordinary frequency of championship DNA, of a winner's mindset, of a person of influence and impact on a global scale. So do you understand when you have these, like that level of vibration, only great things are going to come from it. And that's the foundation. So it was the simplest conversation I have to say if I really think about it. In my 13 years of being in business, that was the highest vibrational conversation and recruiting experience that I've ever had. I've been recruited a couple of times by some very good people, but that was just a different level, right? So if you have an 8, a 9, or a 10, talking to an 8, 9, or a 10, the vibrational level is very different and the outcome is going to be very different. And they both understood that if we recruit him and then we form a partnership, there's going to be a lot of fruit that's going to bear out just because of what I bring to the table, my level of commitment, but most importantly, my mindset. It's my mindset. That's where the attraction came from. So when you are building your business, the first thing you have to identify is, okay, what is my mindset? What does my come from? Am I on 10? Am I going to be on 10 all the time? See, here's the thing about Make It Happen Captains. There's a very clear distinction. So we've talked a little bit about being in the 98% versus the 2%. So 98% of the population, they're controlled by their phones. 98% of the population has somebody else telling them what to do, what to think, when to move, when to eat, when they can take a break, when they can be sick, when they can take a vacation. They're on somebody else's schedule, somebody else's program. 2% of the population, they're literally creating their life as they go along. They're literally the influencers. They're the ones that are impacting the majority of the body politic. They're the ones that are setting the tone, the risk takers, the bold and the courageous. I heard a really inspiring story the other day. Anna Kasparin, she's a co-host of a show called The Young Turks, TYT. And The Young Turks is the most watched news source on the internet. Like in all of the world, they're the most watched. It's TYT. And she was telling the story of when they got started. And she was saying that she had a job at CBS and she was working on an paid internship that was steady. And working for the Young Turks, she just was learning, but she wasn't really, making real money yet. And actually, the Young Turks was about to go out of business because their backer had just filed for bankruptcy. And so Cenk, who is the founder of it, came to her and said, listen, I need you to quit your job at CBS if we're going to do this. And she said, yeah, but what if I quit my job and the Young Turks goes out of business anyway? He's like, that's life in the big city, baby. Like, he's like, no guts, no glory. You got to take the risk. If you're not willing to take the risk, there's no reward. And that one line is what sealed it for her. So she literally left all sense of security, stability, because she's a 2%er. She's a 2%er in her mindset. She's like, look, if it is to be, it's up to me. Let's go. Like, let's go. Let's roll the dice. I believe, that's the key word. We talked about this last week. I believe in what I bring to the table. I believe in my work ethic. I believe in what you and I can do. High frequency, high vibrational. Her and Cenk, they're both coming together. They're like, let's get it done. We're going to get this done no matter what. And from those two people, do you understand that over 5 billion hours of views they've collected? They're the most watched news channel. And I think the most watched channel, they might be the most watched channel on the internet. So that's the power of being a 2%er. That's the power of knowing what you have, what you bring to the table. So when you have clarity on that, when you're picking up the phone and you're inviting someone to look at your business, to look at your opportunity, the energy that comes behind that is so strong. It's so succinct. Now, it's not, you don't have to say, hey, it's not like you're picking up the phone and saying, hey, you know how great I am, right? Like I'm calling you, you do know how great I am, right? No, it's not that. It's the inner conversation. It's the posture. You're posturing up so that every single person that you call, you're literally vetting that individual to see if they qualify to be a part of what it is that you're doing. And that becomes 20 million times easier when you have all of the backing. So I was speaking this was yesterday. I was speaking to Christina. Christina is an up-and-coming leader. She's out here in the trenches. She's having conversations. And we spoke after she went to, we call them a regional. So regionals when you get a chance to be up close and personal with some of the corporate leadership, some of the science advisory board, and you get like to take a microscope and go through the company and the products with much more vivid detail. Okay, so she's on the phone and I'm listening to her on the phone, and I think I was I can't remember if we were on FaceTime or not, but what I remember from the call was her energy and her voice. Like, I remember that more than anything else. It was so on 10. It was so on fleck. I was like, I gotta go do something. Like, I got out the phone with her. I was like, I gotta go find somebody right now to recruit. Like, she got me so fired up. I wasn't even there, but she transferred her energy from the event, and that impacted me. Our business is a transference of energy. And when you know you're come from and you're having a conversation, the conversation is so impactful. People will ask me, well, Ed, you know what, I'm trying to find people on social media. That's great. My goal when I'm on social media is to get it offline as quickly as possible. So if I see Dan on social media, I'm like, hey man, I see you out here doing your thing. The theater looks fantastic. Dan he and his wife run a musical theater company. I'm like, yo, bro, we got to get on the phone, man. I haven't heard your voice in years. When's the best time to call you? I just want to get it offline as quickly as possible so I can hear his energy and he can hear mine. That's where the appointments are set. But when you're recruiting, ladies and gentlemen, you got to have clarity on, first and foremost, who you are, what your come from is, and most importantly, where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you nowhere. So when you have clarity on where you're going, it allows you to convey that to the person that you're talking to. If I call Stacy and I say, look, I got tickets to see Beyonce and Jay-Z. You in? Well, see, I've already communicated the outcome, the destination, and the experience in one line. And either she's in or she's out. Do I care if she's like, has no interest? No. If she says no, does it mean that Beyonce and Jay-Z suck? No. Does it mean we're not going to have an incredible experience whether she comes or not? Of course not. I had an invitation. I extended it. If she's not available, no problem. I'll come back to her later. So that's number one. Know who you are. Know what you bring to the table. Know where you're going. The second thing is understanding the law of recruiting. See, the law of recruiting works like this. If you see yourself as a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10, the first calls that you're going to make usually are going to be to 5s and 6s. So you call 5s and 6s because these are people that you have influence with, and maybe you have a little more credibility. You might be a little bit more successful than them. Excuse me, but that is the tendency for people to call 5s and 6s if they see themselves as a 7. And what happens is if some of those 5s and 6s are going to say yes, they're going to get started, some of them because of your influence, etc. Then they go and they start to make their phone calls. And those 5s and 6s are going to do what? They're going to call 4s and 5s and some 3s because they're going to do the exact same thing. They're going to reach out to people that they have some influence with, some credibility with. And then guess what? Some of those 4s and 5s and 3s are going to say yes and get started. And then those 4s, 5s, and 3s are going to do what? They're going to reach out to their network. And guess what? It's called the law of diminishing return. It gets less and less as you go deeper and deeper. This is why it's very important for you to have a strong vision and then to teach those individuals that you're bringing in how to cultivate a vision as well. So my first conversation is going to be, well, tell me about you. Like, what do you want to get out of this? Where do you see yourself going with this? I want to find out what is your unfinished business. I want to find out what keeps you up late at night. I want to find out, do you have a why that makes you cry or makes you fly? Either way, it's all good for me as long as it's emotional. Okay, it's got to be an emotional connection to the reason why they're doing it. This is why I kept saying to you all last week, I was like, look, if you're in this business and you get rattled because someone bails on a meeting, if you get in your feelings because someone quits or someone says they're going to sign up and they don't, or someone joins and doesn't do anything, well, then you're going to go to your family and say, hey, y'all, I'm sorry. Like, I suck. We're not going to, mom, dad is not going to follow through because I suck. And so didn't show up. So therefore our family is screwed. Like, come on, man. That's crazy. So when you have an emotional connection to your outcome, nothing is going to derail you. There's no earthly force that's going to stop you from getting what you come to get. So if you have that as a starting point and you understand the law of recruiting 1 through 10, see yourself as a 7, you're immediately going to instinctually call 6s and 5s, and they're going to do the same thing. And before long, you got a bunch of zeros calling zeros. Well, every zero knows a hero, every dud knows a stud. And I'm not saying this in a way that I'm not calling people losers, so to speak. I'm talking about how people see themselves. Unfortunately, the majority of most people's inner conversation is negative. Unfortunately, most people have stopped pursuing their goals and dreams a long time ago because they've just resigned themselves to a life of mediocrity. So when you understand that, you can have a different level of conversation. So let's say I see myself as an 8, I call a 7 and a 6. Well, the first conversation I have is, listen, tell me what you see yourself doing with this. I'm already going in the future. Tell me a specific outcome that you're committed to. Because see, the future can be 10. Future can always be a 10. Because that comes out of our imagination, the creativity of our imagination. So someone says, well, listen, and I've had this conversation in real time. They say, hey, the first goal is $10,000 a month. Great. For them, it will be the first time in their lives that they've built a passive income of $10,000 a month. It's $120,000 a year. It's a big deal. Great. So I want to live in that vision. I want to make sure that your language and your self-talk is in alignment with that outcome. And most importantly, that your actions are anchored to your thought process. Because if you are committed to $10,000 a month, you'll get there. There's no question about it. Just all you have to do is do the activity every day. It's very simple. It's the simplest business on planet Earth. All you have to do is talk to people. All you have to do is set appointments, do exposures, collect decisions. Set appointments, do exposures, collect decisions. It's the easiest thing on planet Earth. See, every week we get a deposit from our company. And every week, I love it when the text message comes in and I can see whatever the amount is, and I get the email reinforcement. Well, see, I'm being trained like a Pavlovian dog. I understand. I'm not taking my foot off the pedal ever because I know that number is going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger every single week. And I have my goal. I know what my goals are for a weekly income. So it just gets me more and more fired up. You have to take the charge of your recruit and creating and casting their vision, what they want, but your job is to help them get specific with it. And then the actions are how we hold them accountable to it. Now, that allows them, if they're a 5 or a 6, to start living in the land of 10. If they understand the importance of not only casting the vision, but living inside of it, they start to vibrate and have a different level of energy. One of the best lines I ever heard from a trainer, he said, look, you need to go into the meeting as if you're already making $15,000 a month. He's like, I don't care if you just started yesterday. If you go into the meeting and you say to yourself, I'm a $15,000 a month passive income earner, and you sit down with that posture, the prospect's going to feel that. Then you don't say it, but you just think it in your mind. They're going to feel like this person is doing something big, even if you haven't gotten there yet. People want to know that I'm with somebody who's going somewhere. People want to enroll with people, listen, who can take them to a place they've never been. They want to enroll with someone who can take them to a place they've never been. That's why it's so important to take the time to cultivate the vision, to get specifically with what their outcome is. So now they have courage to start reaching out to some 8s, some 9s, and some 10s. If they see themselves as a 7, they start reaching out to 8, 9s, and 10s because they're living in what? Their future. You all know this. Think about it. If you're married You, at some point, saw that before it happened. You thought about it before it happened. You envisioned, what would it be like if I married this person? And you start running, the equation in your head. Okay, I'm not going to get 100% of what I want, but can I get 80%? Am I getting 80%? All right, let me see how this could play out. All right, like they leave their socks on the floor. All right, I can deal with that. I can, But they're really affectionate. They're very attentive. So that's okay. I could do that. They work really hard. They're very hardworking. They really bring a lot of value to the family. And okay, I could do that. But man, I can't stand it when they leave the cap off the toothpaste. It drives me insane, but I can live with that, right? So you negotiate all these things in your head way before the wedding takes place. You're already living in your future. And what does that do? It increases your vibrational level, makes for a more formative connection before the wedding ever happens. We do it all the time. You just have to do it with your business. You got to do it with your success. Some of you have already had the experience. Maybe you had a goal to compete in CrossFit, or maybe you had a goal to run a marathon, or maybe you had a goal to get down to a certain weight, or whatever it was. Well, you had the vision before it happened. And that's just how human minds work. Everything is created twice. One time here, second time out here. So now that you understand the recruiting laws of 1 through 10, if I'm a 7, I will naturally and instinctually go after 6s and 5s. And that's fine, okay? But my job is to help that person, the 6 and the 5, create a vision for what life is going to be like on 10, so they can start vibrating at a higher level, a different level of expectation. And this requires, by the way, belief, and it requires faith. So these are the foundational tools of our business. Belief, as we talked about last week, that's based on whatever you've committed as true in your life. That's all a belief is. It's whatever you have committed as true in your life. If you're committed that you are someone who's a top income earner, you're a top producer, you're the leader that leaders and others are looking for, you have a championship mindset, it's not over until you win. If you have that and burned in your brain as a part of your belief system, you'll win, okay? That's a belief system. Doesn't matter if it's true or not, right? We talked about this. Like, people believe in all kinds of stuff. You're like, okay, that's what that person believes. All right. Good on you. Question is, does the belief get me closer to the outcome? If the belief gets me to my goal, then you got to have at it. And I would much rather live by an empowering belief than a disempowering belief. And if you have an empowering belief, you could build off of that. You could eat off of that. Now, if you see yourself as a 7, then you got to start living in your 10. So even if you see yourself as a 7 or 8, you got to live in your 10. What's your 10? Well, my 10 is $1 million a month. My 10 is being able to impact thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people around the planet with our products and our compensation. My 10 is continuing to speak, teach, and train around the world and bring as much value to the world as I possibly can, so that I have nothing left. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. So you got to figure out what your 10 is, so that when you're in that space and you're living in your future, that's what's emanating when you're having the conversation. Then you start to really understand this conversation could be a game changer, or it could just be another phone call. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm not emotional either way. I'm talking to somebody and they're saying, I'm not really interested in not losing weight. I'm not really interested in living a healthier lifestyle or making more money. No problem. Have a great life. If you have any referrals, let me know. Because I wouldn't really want a referral for somebody that thinks that way anyway, because their vibrational level is so low. Even if they could refer somebody, the chances are that referral is going to be trash. If I'm talking to somebody else, oh man, this is fantastic. This is my jam. I love this. And the compensation is ridiculous. We're going to take it all the way to the top. My emotions are exactly the same. Okay, fantastic. Let's get it going. I'm very excited to work with you. And in my head, I'm just saying to myself, we'll see. We'll see, because talk is cheap, but it's also very important, because how you talk to yourself and how you talk to others is how we transference the energy that makes the connection. So the most important conversation you're going to have is with you. But you as a leader have to understand you're going to hear all kinds of different proclamations and intimations and all of that. Doesn't matter, okay? This is the brilliance of the business model. It doesn't matter. You just have to keep talking to people. That's it. Like, that's the job. That's all we have to do. You will find the right ones if you just keep flipping the cards, right? Flipping the cards, you're going to find your aces if you keep flipping the cards. So recruiting 1 to 10, be mindful of it. And those of you that are 7s, live in your 10s so you can talk to 9s and 10s when you're recruiting as well. But it doesn't mean that we're going to ignore the 6s and belows. It just means that even if I end up recruiting someone who's a 2 or a 3 in terms of their self-image and self-worth, I'm still going to take that person under my wing and put them on a steady diet of self-improvement, a steady diet of personal development, a steady diet of challenging them to grow. Now, they may come along slower. They're not going to necessarily be the person that hits it out of the park in their first 90 days, but if they can just have a higher vision of themselves, then that's a great start. And remember, every 0 knows a hero, every dud knows a stud. My job is to get that person's contact list. And I can go through that list with them and find some 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s anyway, okay? Because I have someone who might be looking at themselves in a low vibrational way, but they want to change. See, that's different. I'm not talking about the person that doesn't want to change. I'm talking about the person that says, you know what, I can do better. Like, I know I can do better than my current circumstance. I remember there was a young lady years ago. I recruited her. I didn't recruit her. I went to her home to do a presentation, and she enrolled as a result of the presentation I did in her home, but somebody else took me there, okay? She was on welfare at the time, okay? She was a mother of 3 kids, and she was doing the best she could with what she had. She was so fired up to change her situation. She literally cut coupons, and like it took her 3 weeks of cutting coupons because she was very good at it, to get the money to get started in that business. I never forgot that, because I was like, man, you know, an excuse is a well-planned lie. Excuses are nothing more than the nails that build houses of failure. It's all in your what? Your mindset. So I go out every day and I look for people that resonate with my mindset, that are vibrating at a higher level. And when I find those people, it's game on, baby. Game on. So let's keep making it do what it do. Happy, successful Saturday. We'll see you guys on Motivate Monday, kicking off the week at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to have a powerful week. But until then, we'll see you then. Have a great weekend.